It turns out I found a way to get some more of the content that I want to make created. And it's not be able to sleep at night and go out into the garage because it's only 45 degrees. But it is 3 o'clock in the morning.
All right, welcome back to the garage. I have something new today, which is a game I'm very excited about and played a few times now, and it's just as good as I was expecting it to be. Though I will save full thoughts on all that later for the inevitable review. But for right now, we're just gonna play. So this is Dune Imperium, and it should have just been arriving to the people who had it pre-ordered. I don't know why these are out. And it is a really interesting combination of deck building and worker placement. And I'm excited to show it to you. So first of all, I'm going to teach you how to play solo. So the book comes with this nice rule book, which goes into a lot of details on everything you need, but then also has a separate page that is for solo and two-player games. House Hagal is the kind of Automa type deck that runs, they refer to them as your rivals. If you're playing a two-player game, you add one into the game. That in the rules is just a spoiler character, doesn't actually accumulate victory points, just gets in the way. In the solo player game, you play against two faction leaders who still use the same deck. They both pull from it, but they actually do accumulate victory points. And I am interested, as are some of the people online, about whether or not the solo player victory capable AI would work in a two-player game. I have no problem personally with throwing a spoiler character into a game. It kind of tightens everything up for my wife and I. When we want to play something like Lords of Waterdeep, I did come up with a couple of, well, exactly that. One spoiler character that just draws cards and gets in the way, but another who draws cards to go places and actually accrues victory points. So very similar to what Dune has here. So the rules of the game, I'll leave you to find those. There are a number of videos out there that are fantastic. I have heard some feedback that it sounds more intimidating and the setup sounds a little bit more involved than it really is. If you've set up a medium weight euro or any sort of worker placement, this setup, when the steps are listed individually, they do sound a little bit intimidating, but it's really just second nature sort of stuff. And this is my third time playing, and everything just sort of fell into place. And yeah, no problems there. So I think that's perfectly fine. But yeah, those videos are out there, so check those for the actual rules. I'm going to teach you what's different about when you're playing with the solo mode. So during the player turns, so you begin the round, then player turns, the AI will flip over a card, and it will tell you exactly what or where they're going to send an agent and what they're going to get. Now, let's say this is for Baron Harkonnen. He's sending a guy here to Arkeen. Now this tells you to send a troop and draw a card. You disregard that. You ignore what's on the board and you do what's on the card instead. One of the reasons is these AI opponents do not have hands, so anything that would get them a card, obviously they do not need. Anything that has a cost associated with it, they do not pay. Anything that requires you to have special access, well, any of the spots, unlike other worker placement games, you actually need to have access to the space So, for instance, convincing argument allows you to put down a person nowhere. This is only for purchasing cards up in the market. Diplomacy lets me go to any of the 4 factions on the side of the board. But if what I really want is out here or up here in the Landstrad console, I'm out of luck. The AI doesn't have to worry about that. They just go there, they do the thing, and for right now, just ignore the part that's down here. Also, see 1 player that's up there. There are, I believe, 4 or so cards that are 1 player. There are 4 cards that are 2 player. So make sure that you remove the 2 player cards if you are playing solo mode, and vice versa if you are playing 2 player. So the first player token is important because it will go around like in a normal game. They will take turns until they no longer have any agents to send out. And that's how the player turn part of the turn goes. So let's say the beast is up next and draws top card, and it's the same thing as Baron Harkonnen drew. Obviously, like in most worker placement games, this is not allowed. So then you would just draw again, and you would go to Hardy Warriors in this case. And again, instead of, well, actually this one will be the same, because anytime you go on a faction space, you go up on their faction track. Whoops. There we go. Now we have standing. So anytime a player puts an agent down on any of the faction spaces, they immediately move up the track. That's obviously put here on the card, as well as whatever they get. So you just draw until there's a space that is available for them to place an agent. If it's ever empty, you just shuffle it up and start over. So one thing I did get wrong in my first game, and then I fixed in the second game, was that the victory points on the track do not apply for the automa, which is good because they will go up these tracks pretty quickly. And honestly, for I have this set up for the novice, and I intend to do all 4 of the difficulty levels over time with the channel. And I was having a pretty tight race on the victory point track. This game either goes for 10 rounds or until someone hits 10 or above points, and they were just steadily moving up, and that's because they were ticking off victory points as they were going up these tracks. They do take the alliance token if they ever make it into that threshold first. They get the benefit and they get the token, which is a victory point, but they do not get the victory point associated with the track. So in solo play, not in 2-player mode, if you see the signet ring symbol, they do actually use their ability. So in the case of 2 that I'm playing today are Baron Harkonnen. So you disregard this rule over here, so that won't happen, but this will. So if he has a Solari, he turns it into an intrigue card. Now I'll explain why he would want to do that in a little bit. The beast obviously does not do this over here, but for a signet ring, 1 warrior, or 2 if you have at least 1 faction alliance. And I am playing as Earl Thorvald, so when I take a High Council seat, I get to raise 1 faction, 1 track, and anytime I do the signet ring, I get a single spice. As I mentioned, I am playing the novice difficulty, so I get a Solari and a spice. Everybody gets water at the beginning of the game. Okay, so let's say it gets back around as to Baron Harkonnen's turn. He flips over his card. Let's explain this troop icon again, which I actually did not follow through with last time. So the Hall of Oratory, that's up here, and he gets 1 troop. So if is not a combat space, and you know it's combat space because there would be the swords icon in the space, like these ones, then the troop that they would get just goes into their garrison. and I'll have blue, red, and my yellow ones over here. So they do not go into the Great Conflict for the round. Now, if the beast draws, he gets to go to the Highliner, which is a fantastic space for anybody. Not only would he go up in the faction renown, his 3 troops would go directly to the conflict, because you'll see the cross swords are right there on the space. Now, let's say he had some troops already in his garrison. Anytime you go to a combat space, whether or not you place troops, they would immediately put 2 cubes or 2 troops in from their garrison. Now, I say, even if you don't put troops in, like with this card, Harvest Spice, there are no cubes that you get to move for that one, but because it's a combat space, you get to, a human player, anytime you go to a combat space, like here, you don't get any troops here, but you always get to choose to move up to 2 into the Great Conflict. Same thing with the Automa, except they always will move 2, or as many as they can, unless you have the expert rule, in which case they are more cunning and there's rules associated with that. So again, the Highliner space would send 3 in here, and if he had enough, he would send 2 in as well. So quite a force in one turn. So I mentioned this before, this is the one card that is not just a simple series of symbols, and you would send an agent to the space with the most bonus spice, or total spice if tied. If no spaces have bonus spice, reveal another card. So in this case, the maker's step will put spice on these places that did not have an agent the previous turn, because the agents weren't mucking about, so the worms can make some more spice. So if Baron Harkonnen had another guy, drew the Harvest Spice, they would look over and say, oh, it's tied for most spice. It says ties are broken by the most total spice, so 3 plus 1 as opposed to 1 plus 1. Takes that, goes to his board. Okay, so in the combat step, we would calculate just like in a normal game, so 2 per cube, 1 per sword. So right now, I would be losing handily because there are 5 cubes out here to my 2. But in addition to that, just like human players are able to use intrigue cards to add to their combat value, the AI decks, in turn order, if they have at least 1 cube in the conflict. So let's say I was first player, I could play intrigue card to affect my score here. Let's say I don't have any. It would then go to Baron Harkonnen, who does not have any troops in the conflict, so he is not participating. And then when it gets to the beast, it would flip over a card, and in this case, it doesn't matter. If there were swords, they would be down here below. He did not need any swords because he was already beating me. And I guess let's see what our first conflict is going to be. Oh, so that would be a good one for him to get, because he would take first place, obviously, and I would take second. So again, these Automa do score points. They are victory capable. And the reason why I separated these into 5 and 5, the 10 conflict cards, is because instead of having to pay for your Swordmaster, the AI just automatically get them once they run through a certain number of cards. On the novice difficulty level, that is 5 cards, or I guess mercenary, that's 5 cards. At the Sardaukar, it's 4 cards, and at the Mentat level, it is 3 cards. So it's just a fuse to count down. They say to put it above the Swordmasters. Obviously, this is takes up quite a bit of table space. So I'm just taking the bottom 5, and I'm going to move them over here. I don't know. How about here? What? It doesn't matter. Okay, so once I flip over the 5th card, which I won't because I've actually made this deck, so I obviously don't want to know what's coming up in round 5. When I flip over the 5th card and there are no more cards in this stack, at that point, their agents would go into their pool. If I have secured mine earlier, I would already have it. I could obviously do it that turn, or if I didn't, I would have to pick it up later, but they are already at 3 agents to my 2, which wouldn't be a good position to be in for obvious reasons. So the rules so far, those are solo or 2-player. They follow the exact same model. The rest of these rules are just for solo play. To begin, you're going to choose a difficulty level, and then there are some rules, setup rules that you follow. So we're doing the mercenary right now, so I got the extra Solari and Spice. There is not a 5 Solari token on the Mentat token or spot. So in the higher 2 difficulties, this costs 5 instead of 2 to go to the Mentat space. The rival garrison troops in the other ones, they would start with 3. In this one, they start with nothing. Again, 5 for 3 conflict cards before they get their Swordmasters, and then starting intrigue cards, none, as opposed to 1 and 1. Kwisatz, I do not. Full disclosure, I have tried and failed to read Dune 4 times. I love the Duneverse. I love the concept of it, but the book just does not jive with me. So I don't even have that problem that most book readers have, where you have only thought a name or a word in your head and never had to say it out loud, because I haven't even gotten past the first half of the book. So there is a level beyond Mentat where you cannot gain your Swordmaster. So not only do they get theirs automatically after just 3 rounds, or in the 3rd round, but you never get yours. So that'll be a fun game to watch when I get to that level. Okay, so you're choosing a difficulty. You choose 2 leaders for the rivals to be. Again, they ignore the ability on the left. They do get their signet ability when appropriate, and there are 2 leaders they cannot be. They can't be Paul Atreides because, again, they will not do something that has them draw a card, and they cannot be Helena Richese because they do not interact with the Imperium row. They do not buy cards, so her whole ability about getting rid of a card or removing it and then getting to acquire it for 1 less, that would be wasted on them. So that would be a unfair advantage for you to have as the human. They recommend Earl Thorvald and the Beast as the starting ones. I am doing a kind of alternate history, which they have come out and said that while they did make this game to kind of be the major houses struggling against each other, you absolutely can make whatever matchups you want. So in this case, I have kind of the Harkonnen house that has fractured, and then House Thorvald trying to wedge in between them. So I have the 2 Harkonnens that are available in the base game, which again, hopefully they have expansions that come out with more houses, more cards, more everything to fill out the giant box, which I'll show you later on, which is kind of ridiculous. But for right now, there are the 4 houses and there are 2 leaders for each one. Oh, I understand what they wanted. So, okay. So they say to put them literally into. I thought that was a figurative thing. I mean, that's kind of goofy. I'll do it for now because that'll be a fun reveal, but I don't know if I would do that ever again. Because there's a chance. Yeah, that's just. We'll do it for now. We'll see how it feels. Again, you have to remove the 2-player cards from the Hagal deck, but we've already taken care of that. The difficulty, if it says to do the 5 Solari on the Mentat, you do, but ours doesn't. We all start with 1 water, and the rival on our left takes the first turn marker. So you will not have a random first player. it will always be not only one of the opponents, but it will be the one furthest from you. So I will be going first, last. That's the most complicated way I possibly could have said that. Okay, so while in the 2-player game, or the kind of the overall rules talk about them just picking up the 1 spice like I did here, in the 1-player rules, if the Harkonnen, or can't say that, if Baron Harkonnen went to this space, not only would he get the bonus spice that was there, he would also get the base spice level, which is kind of huge. So in the 2-player game, it's just a way of sweeping every so often the bonus spice to keep the players from just snagging that whenever is beneficial to them. But in the 1-player game, they actually are taking the full value. So the same amount of spice that you would get as a player, which is important because I said before I would later on mention why you want those things. So 3 intrigue or 3 water nets them a victory point. 7 Solari or 7 spice, same thing. So anytime they, let's say somehow Baron Harkonnen was able to get 5 spice, some crazy haul from the board, he would immediately liquidate 7 of it, and then he would go up 1 on the victory point track. Same thing for water, same thing for intrigue, same thing for Solari. So when it comes to combat, they will receive any rewards. Again, this is a victory capable AI, so it's not just there to be a stumbling block. They do collect those things for the reasons we just talked about. They do also potentially win control over the contested spaces, and they will get the benefit anytime any agent goes down, which is, again, same rule for humans. So not the Lords of Waterdeep rule, where if you go to a house or a building you own, you don't get the owner benefit. In this case, if Baron Harkonnen owned this and he plopped a guy down here, he would get 1, 2, 3 spice from that action. Also, the Mentat, they will never go to this space, but there are conflict cards that have the Mentat as a reward. They do get that reward if they win that combat. So it would go over to their board, and they would spend it like an agent in the upcoming turn. So last kind of fiddly rules, there is an endgame scoring card, Corner of the Market. So obviously, if you have 2 of Spice Must Flow cards, which cost 9, so good luck, you get 1 victory point. And then if you have more than each opponent, an additional victory point, the game says to assume that your rivals have 2 each. So you would need 3 Spice Must Flow cards in order to get that second victory point. And if you're in that case, you got 3 victory points for each of these, and then 2 from that card alone. You're halfway to winning the game, my friend. Last but not least, choices. Whenever rival has a choice about gaining influence, so there sometimes are spoils from the combat that have the question mark, like gain influence with any faction. They choose the faction in which they have the least standing. In the case of a tie, so for the Beast, he has 1 influence, but he has 3 but he has 3 where he does not. So you would choose as the player which one they would take. Also, anytime there is a tie in something that does not involve influence, you would also choose for them. I don't actually know what that means. That rule is in there, but I have not come up with a situation in which you would have to solve a tie that did not involve that. Who knows? Maybe we'll come up with it in this game, and then we'll learn together. My rule of thumb is, because I want the game to be interesting, I am going to choose the thing that I want least as the human player. Like, in my mind, if I were to see a human opponent take that action and get that result, what would be the thing that I would say, all right, please don't do this thing, and I'm going to have them do that. just to put, like, in that moment, a tiny bit of humanity into the AI. And with that, expert troop deployment, right. So at the expert difficulty, which is the Mentat difficulty, they're more selective about deploying troops into a conflict. When fighting for a conflict 1 or 2 card, so the first 6 cards in the conflict deck, they will not deploy troops if it already is leading by 2 or more troops. They would save them in garrison instead. So right now, currently, the beast is winning by 3 troops. So if he got another card that got him another troop here, and it is to a combat zone, instead of going directly into the combat, like you normally do, they would put it in their garrison instead. Again, as a human player, you always have the choice. Whenever you go to a space with a cube, do you want to put it in your garrison, or do you want to send it to combat? Assuming the swords are in that space. You can't do that for rally troops up here, but you can for the highlighter. So with the expert troop deployment, it holds back a little bit because the rewards for the level 1 and 2. This is a particularly good one, especially for right off the bat. But for the most part, they are below the level of the level 3 conflicts. And once they get to level 3, they will essentially follow the rules that we'll be following now, which is anytime they have troops that for a combat space, they're going to cram them in, and they're also going to send up to 2 from their garrison. So there will be some battles. There's likely to be some battles where the AI will put a somewhat laughable amount of troops into the conflict. Like, they are very much making sure that they get things done. So, it is what it is. But as we climb up the difficulty level, that will fall off. So I cannot rely on that later on, though I can for right now. And that's the end of the rules. Again, just like I said for setup and the overall rules for meat bag only game, it sounds more intimidating than it is. Hopefully in practice you'll see that it's actually quite simple, just to flip and do the thing. It leaves a lot of room for you as the sole human opponent to kind of look at this game as a really intricate game of solitaire with lots of levers to flip and dials to turn and everything. But in terms of their side, it's a very simple flip, do it, move on, which is, I think, great.